Rolling with the last segment of the day, which is also the last segment of this summit here at the CAIS Summit in Beverly Hills, California. And we have Neil Blundell, who's the CIO of CAIS Advisors. Also, you work with CAIS, and we're going to talk about that right now. But first, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, what a great way to wrap up this conference, and what a conference it was. I mean, you guys, Matt, you, the entire team, do a phenomenal job in putting on a great event, a great amount of content. And for someone like myself that's here to get content, is like a cornucopia of subject matter experts. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing. I mean, 3 years ago it was probably 600 people, then 1,000. I think there's probably 1,200 people that are here now, and it's wonderful to see a vast array of different personalities coming, whether it's alternative asset managers. I think we had Jason Sudeikis, Serena Williams, Kevin Costner. So it kind of keeps on growing in terms of who's attracted to the summit. So this is fantastic.
Sounds real good. Okay, so let's get into it. And we have some breaking news here that just came out about CAIS Advisors. And we were talking a little bit about this off camera, but let's hear it directly from you. What is that all about?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're really at a pivotal point in alternative investments. I think the landscape is changing, right? You've seen a lot of new registered funds come into the marketplace that are focused on accredited investors. And then there's been a lot of technological change to facilitate the adoption of that. And CAIS has already, as a broad firm, is thinking about education and implementation. But what's really been happening is, as the universe has increased, financial advisors are coming to us and saying, you know what, I understand that I need alts in my portfolio, but I don't know how. Right? So it's really gone from access and education, and now we're moving towards implementation. So CAIS Advisors is a registered investment advisor, and we're really focused on three things. We're thinking about can we think about helping our clients navigate markets, think about manager selection and portfolio construction. We've also are creating model portfolios that are customizable to our end clients. And then also a series of anticipated registered funds that will give simplified exposure, maybe a single ticket in 1099 to an asset class like private equity, private credit, real estate, or even themes. Maybe it's technology or sports media entertainment. So we're really thinking about how do we simplify the journey so that financial advisors can really meet their needs, their objectives, and have a suite of tools to access. Okay,
I love all of that, and this is perfect content for goRIA. So as I was telling you a little bit off camera, our audience tends to be advisors in the broker-dealer space at the wirehouses and independent broker-dealer shops that are thinking about going RIA. And I think we're over one obstacle, right? So maybe 5 years ago when we started doing this, a lot of the wirehouse advisors would be like, how can I possibly do alts without a Series 7? No problem. And I don't think we need to push that button much anymore. I think people really understand that. But now the second derivative of this is, okay, I don't need a Series 7, but I'm going from this big mega wirehouse with these big departments that's going to help hold my hand and my clients' hands on the advice side, not just the transactional side. But now I guess CAIS Advisors is the answer to that, or a answer to that, yeah?
Yeah, I think that's right. And if you look at the whole CAIS ecosystem, right, if you're moving from a wire to an RIA, as you mentioned, I mean, in many cases, it's like, how do I kind of simplify my journey in this, right? So can I have educational resources? Can I have a menu to potentially invest from? What does my trade process look like? Pre-trade, trade, post-trade. Is it simplified? What's the reporting on that? So these are things that CAIS has been looking at for a long time to just really simplify and make sure it's streamlined as you create your own RIA, as an example. But that advice piece has been missing, right? So if there isn't a centralized CIO office and you need help thinking through portfolio construction, asset allocation, or manager selection, now there's just another resource at CAIS that can really think through those challenges, really think through those client needs, and help develop solutions. And in many cases, we can work to make sure it's implemented via kind of the CAIS platform.
All right, that sounds good. So in a lot of ways, will advisors, myself included perhaps, right?
Yeah.
Be able to use CAIS Advisors as an outsourced CIO solution as well?
Yeah. I mean, that's. I mean, there's multiple ways to work with it. I mean, in some cases, you can say, we'd love to create capability, maybe it's a model, and we could work together and we can create an investment model that allocates to whether it's registered funds or qualified purchaser drawdown funds. We can kind of think through what are the needs and design that together. In some cases, what we do a lot of times is work on customizable models. So it could be your firm in your brand, and we're just working to think through how do we actually make that standardized and customized to your needs that you can deliver on the CAIS platform, delivered through our technology. And the last piece is, we're creating a series of funds, so it can be a custom fund that has a number of different drawdown strategies, right, which we can place into a broad wrapper, or even registered funds that will be available to a credit investor. We're really thinking about, can we create the structure around it, right, that gives access to high quality managers, many of which might be on our marketplace, to provide these investment solutions and to really help clients all along the way, right, in whatever they need. It could be creating the actual structure itself, all the way down to the actual investment advice and manager selection underneath.
Okay. Again, all that sounds really good. So as a owner of an RIA myself, you said two things that I love hearing: customized and easy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's a really brilliant thing to be adding into the CAIS platform, which, again, we were talking off camera, CAIS has done a great job with the technology. Now you complement that with essentially an outsourced CIO situation. There's just nothing that these big wirehouse advisors are missing when they make that move to independence. And I would even further say that it's in a lot of ways better, because you take those commissions out of the picture, you remove all that bias, and you're just delivering real good, solid investment advice to your clients, which is great.
Yeah, and I think, customizable model portfolios, this is a way where we can work with an RIA. If you think about creating a model, there's many different questions and kind of leads to the outcome. First of all, you have a range of different capabilities, right, that you have access to. Then you're thinking for what outcome you're looking for. Is it growth? Is it income? Are you looking for accredited investors or qualified purchasers? Is there evergreen strategies or registered funds? What's the tax reporting? And this leads you to kind of unique answers in trying to think about, for your client base, what's the right and optimized model for it. So we can help navigate that, really determine what's most suitable, and then deliver that on our CAIS technology, in a white labeled version, in the brand, with your stamp on it. And it's really kind of the second piece is thinking through how to execute it. So, on the CAIS platform via our technology, we've done a lot of releases to kind of think through how do you actually create a models marketplace, right? What's the support? Are there fact sheets describing what is the model and what it's looking to achieve, all the way to what's the reporting function and rebalancing instruction behind it. And all these things are embedded so that the investment process is easy, where you can kind of go through the weights and the different underlying strategies and kind of click through them, digitized docs, simplified execution on the back end. So that easy button is kind of something that's always in the back of our mind of like, how do we make this really easy for an RIA or independent broker-dealer to kind of think through some of these things and execute simply.
Yeah, so something you touched upon there I was actually going to ask, so I'm glad you brought it up. So do I have this right? So I, as the RIA, can go to the CAIS Advisors for the guidance and the outsourced CIO, because I want to put together a model for income, a model for growth,
right.
Put that together. Then I go back to CAIS proper, right, the technology side,
yeah.
And that model now lives on my portal that I could see and is branded as Sovereign, for example?
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly it, right? So we can work together, develop the model that meets your needs, right? So we can select the asset allocation, the managers, right? The different types, whether it's growth or income, and create a whole model series that's suitable for your client. Go back to CAIS, we can actually then put that model on our technology, and we're really thinking about how do we make it simple to invest in. Right, so just like anything that hits our marketplace, so there can be descriptions, there can be videos, reporting packages on it. But I think the most interesting thing, say it has 3 or 6 holdings in it, how do you actually make it easy at a click of a button where you can actually invest in the entire model for your clients, or maybe multiple clients at once? Right, and that's the technology that we're kind of thinking through in terms of the implementation aspects and reporting aspects of the model. So these are the things. I mean, it's the design, and then also kind of how easy is it to implement.
So are you guys envisioning at some point, once we get the model together with the guidance of the outsourced CIO, Now it lives on the CAIS platform to have essentially that one easy button. At some point, press one button, say put $100,000 of Dr. Smith into this sovereign model, let's say, and it goes in?
Yeah, and so the technology will split up the 100,000 into the different weights. It pre-populates the documents, because the information will be stored, and it, you can click the button to execute and sign the documents and execute it. So it's kind of all working seamlessly through it. And there might be, if you're grouping several together, a universal subdoc that governs it, but all these things are actually possible to kind of simplify that execution.
That's brilliant. And the other thing I do want to touch upon, you mentioned rebalancing. So could we set this to rebalance annually, semi-annually, and even though these are private funds, not necessarily known for hyper liquidity, you guys will be able to rebalance that?
So, and it depends on the arrangement. In some cases, if it's non-discretionary, what we could do is on the model design, we could think through the liquidity of each of the underlying, say, registered funds or semi-liquid strategies. And we're basically saying, if there is or needs to be a rebalance, we can kind of provide the instructions, right, for whoever's following the model to say, hey, you need to redeem out of this, subscribe into this, and kind of rebalance to the kind of existing weights. Other instances, you could say, hey, CAIS Advisors, could you do this for me on a discretionary basis and actually manage the model to these guidelines, and then we do the rebalancing for you. So again, it's a flexible approach, and we can either give the instruction or kind of manage it for you.
Okay, a lot of different options. All right, so we're almost at time, but maybe some parting thoughts. So we're seeing so much interest in alternatives, and for retail, right? Alternatives, he was trying to say, have always been super popular with the uber wealthy, the endowments, but now there's such a huge demand coming to us. We're getting demand from our clients wanting this.
Yeah.
What can you say about that trend? Are we, first inning? Someone earlier was using a baseball reference. Second inning? Where are we in this cycle?
Yeah, I think we're definitely early innings, and I'll give some thoughts and stats around it, right? So if you think about the average RIA allocation, you're kind of at roughly 5%, right? If you think about the modern portfolio, and I'm not saying one size fits all, that's a 50, 30, 20% being alts. So that's a long way to go. And if you think about the size of the market, and this has actually changed some of the landscape and probably the intense focus on it, there's probably $45 trillion in wealth. Half of it is probably independent, and that's growing to $75 trillion estimated in 10 years. So $10 trillion of new assets coming from U.S. wealth into the alternative space. That has created what I mentioned earlier, that renaissance of product development. And it used to be just qualified purchaser strategies in drawdown vehicles with feeders into it that kind of lower the minimums, but not the accreditation status. With the advent of registered funds that can be designed, that are high quality investment programs from high quality managers, designed for accredited investors that are semi-liquid and digestible from an investment perspective and no capital calls and 1099s, that's the adoption rate that has increased significantly. So we've seen massive demand for those structures, and it fits easier into kind of broader portfolios, model portfolios, anything that can require rebalancing because they are semi-liquid. Again, just to preface it, they should be held for the longer term. They shouldn't be daily traded or can't be
These are not
traded.
day trading opportunities for sure. Yes.
But if you're thinking about putting 20% in your portfolio, that means 80% is probably daily liquid in public markets. That you have the ability to get the benefit of alts to kind of meet your client needs, objectives, get incremental income or incremental growth in your portfolio or add diversification, which wasn't accessible, right? It really was not accessible until a few years ago, and now this democratization and product development has really spurred that. And then CAIS, right, through CAIS Advisors and the broader technology platform, is really trying to say, okay, let's even simplify that journey further.
That sounds great. So I think I lied before. I do have one more question.
Yeah, sure.
Because I was just thinking about this as you were saying this, as far as what's fueling the demand. So a topic that's really top of mind for us at goRIA, we talk about this a lot, which is the great wealth transfer.
Yeah.
Right. So depending on who you're speaking with, 60, 70, 80 trillion dollars will go from our current clients to our next gen clients.
Yeah.
As we like to call them, the KOCs, the kids of clients.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that the younger generations are even more eager to get into alts. Yeah. So do you think, and if you have any thoughts on this, I'd be curious to hear them, when we see that wealth transfer going to the younger generation, that already seems to have a stronger affinity for alts. Do you think that's going to fuel things even more?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, right? So if you're less familiar or you grew up in an environment that you just didn't have access to it, it just takes a longer time to understand and get comfortable with it, right? So if you look at younger generations, the adoption of technology, right, kind of environments such as CAIS to go learn, right, about different asset strategies and investment vehicles, I just think, all of a sudden you're driving that adoption and familiarity. And then, there's market cycles, right, that I think some of the investors have, that are in the younger generation. Maybe it's the 2008 scenario or some other volatilities that live through, and having a more diversified portfolio they've probably seen can protect capital. So I just think it's more relevant, it's more front of mind in many cases, and I do think that will probably lead to larger adoption.
Okay, that's a great place to end the segment, which is also the last segment, he's trying to say, for the summit. And I'm already looking forward to what you guys are going to come out with next year. You guys are so innovative, and it's a real pleasure to be here. Neil, thanks a lot for joining us.
Great, thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, so that's it for the CAIS Summit 2024. I'm already looking forward to 2025. So on behalf of goRIA, fueled by Investment News, I'm Chuck Vela, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us.
Great.
Thanks again, Nick.
Thank you.